Hello, fellas and ladies. It's time to review Eddington, the latest film from Ari Aster, a director that's quickly become one of the most interesting filmmakers we have. Jumped out of the game with the horror films Hereditary and Midsommar, which are really buzzy, still are really. But then he seeped away from horror a little bit, kind of, with Beau is Afraid, a film that is questionable. I initially was pretty mixed positive on it. Like, I certainly enjoyed it, but I definitely had my questions, some concerns, really. But time has treated that beautifully, and I now think I love Beau is Afraid more than Hereditary. Now with Eddington, Aster has stepped away from horror entirely, opting for a comedy western set in the fictional New Mexico town of Eddington in May of 2020, obviously ravaged by the COVID-19 pandemic and the Black Lives Matter movement in the wake of the murder of George Floyd by the police. And the film's focal point lies on a sheriff played by Joaquin Phoenix running for mayor against the incumbent played by Pedro Pascal. This movie played at Cannes, got a little divisive reactions, which is to be expected from Ari Aster at this rate. So I went in with open mind, and this movie, based on the trailer, just looked very much my speed. I love a good western, I love a good satire, and I love it when people who acted bizarrely during COVID gets their ass handed to them. That was a weird time. We remember it was a few years ago, unless you're like a baby, in which case you don't remember that at all. And also, why are you interested in Ari Aster films? You're a baby. You should be playing with toys, not socio-political commentary through genre cinema. And can I just say, whatever you may think of Ari Aster's movies, he leaves an impact. He does things just so unconventionally and very in your face in a way that a lot of people, even if they're just not vibing with the movie, they can at least say they have something to ponder on. With Eddington, what I loved about this movie, that I do think I loved, is that it really just, the whole day that I saw this movie, it just had stuck with me. And I just was like, wait, did it do this correctly? Was this satire doing it? What was this satire really about? Because there is definitely a couple of moments in the movie where it's like, hey, remember we had to wait outside in lines to go to the grocery store? Remember that? Remember how silly that was? Remember doom scrolling? There is that in the movie, and the movie's more centrist in its approach, and although I definitely think that Ari Aster has a preference in terms of he definitely thinks, I don't think he's very much overtly going the left was correct and the right was wrong, although I think if you had to lean one way, I guess it would be that he's more mocking conspiracy theory aspects of the rights and how they handled COVID. But I think the movie really at its core is kind of analyzing this moment of widespread uncertainty that resulted in years of social media infused division reaching its breaking point into absolute madness. Now, is there an argument to be made that kind of just parodying the most extreme natures of society during this pandemic is a little basic? Maybe, but I think Ari Aster, in a way, used that zaniness to illustrate, kind of a societal collapse. There's no real finger pointing here. It's not like them basically looking at a crazy conspiracy theorist and going, "Can you get a load of this guy?" The main focus of this movie is through Joaquin Phoenix's character, who, we can definitely see the path he's going down. And it's very familiar from anyone who lived during that moment. But we don't see him right at the gate. This virus isn't real. The police are the good guys. He didn't go right to that. It starts off with this kind of almost understanding nature. Joaquin Phoenix's character in this movie is very empathetic. He's very understanding. He's why, you have asthma. Why should someone wear a mask in the grocery store if they have asthma? And it's that's understandable. That's an understandable reasoning. They all made pretty rash decisions at the beginning of this pandemic, and mixed that with the reckoning with the police during it. Things kind of spiraled because we had so little information. The internet kind of, runs at the speed of milliseconds. And the Eddington's master work is that it plays into that zaniness, wonderfully. At a point, Eddington just kind of becomes a hellscape, and and even though things kind of spiral in this movie to a point of complete overwhelming confusion, I think Ari Aster's goal here isn't to kind of point at one side and say, look what you've done. It's kind of to look at it from a angle of what's happening here. Is he just kind of looking at a portrait of a of a world crumbling? Maybe. But is there not inherent truth, like ugly truth to that? Even Pedro Pascal's character, who is definitely meant to, like, you know, represent a like left-leaning perspective, even his character is a little more matter-of-fact. You know, he's got this very bureaucratic vibe to him. I think there is a very obvious nuance difference between Phoenix and Pascal, other than this guy's crazy, this guy's correct. And maybe I'm only viewing Pascal as a little more, like, you know, morally correct because I vibe with him a little more politically, even though there's definitely some elements in this movie where I definitely disagree with him. I think that this movie's got the genre down to a T. The Western vibes are all there. The town of Eddington feels so lived in. It feels so authentic. I will say this movie, like, I cannot stress enough, this movie is extreme. By the end of this movie, it's absolute pandemonium and mayhem. Like, everything's on fire. And it can be a lot for a lot of people, especially considering it starts off very slow burning. It's funny, yes, but it starts off very methodical and slow with its satire, and then it goes full, like, 180. Like, bullets are flying everywhere and explosions and shit. And, you know, and again, I do think that part of it is representing our, you know, social paradigm that we're in. I do think the side characters are not great. I think Emma Stone's character is very underwhelming. I think she's very good, but I think what she's supposed to represent is a little weak. Austin Butler's barely in the movie, although he is definitely one of the funniest scenes of the film. Our main focal point is through Joaquin Phoenix and his descent, and while some of the choices that his character makes is a little rushed, again, I do think it's supposed to represent the idea of this moment in history that made, like, steady division just go into full-blown pandemonium. This is Joaquin Phoenix's second collaboration with Ari Aster, and my god, they're a dream pairing. I think both this and his performance of Beau's Afraid are amongst Joaquin Phoenix's best performances. He gives his character so much personality in a way that could have been easy, but Joaquin Phoenix chooses routes that feels, like, weirdly empathetic, even when he goes down very dark paths. I could definitely say that there's a shift in tone with this character that feels, again, a little bit like, this isn't the guy that I remember from the beginning. Which, again, I think there's purpose to it, but I feel like it didn't quite build up to it. But I also think it makes sense to a degree. I just think if it's a little rushed, even despite the movie's length. I think the entire ensemble works for me, but I think Joaquin Phoenix is truly the best in the show. Honestly, if it was up to me, he would be Oscar nominated for this. So yeah, I do think that Eddington has something of value. I do think you could easily look at this and go, it's kind of just screaming what we already know about what happened during the COVID pandemic and during the Black Lives Matter movement and the zany uncertainty of it. And you could easily go, well, it's not really doing much with it. And there is, I get, you could say that, yes, I'm not taking that away. But I think Eddington's strengths lie in the kind of commenting. It's kind of what I said about Beau's Afraid. Once you kind of stop trying to get it and stop trying to, like, you know, apply, like, you know, grounded logic to it, I think it works a little more. And Eddington's a little more grounded than Beau's Afraid, but Eddington works on a level of, it's not trying to comment on a certain political stance. It's a movie that I don't even know if I would even call overtly political, showing us this moment and exasperating how it was just a complete collapse that happened in this moment. Ari Aster has a true talent for having a film stick with you, and even if you don't quite like it, Eddington is a film that accomplishes that, and it doesn't hurt that I also think I loved it. It did just easy, judgmental finger-pointing you'd expect from a COVID film, and actually wants to examine the way this moment in history was maybe the breaking point of years of social media-infused division, driving into extremes that had me peeled to the screen. Eddington will not work for everyone, but it did for me, and I'm giving it 9 Beau's Afraid penis monsters out of 10. This movie doesn't have any of that, by the way. If you're not a Beau's Afraid fan, this is not it's none of that crazy shit. That's all. That's none of that shit. All that. We're done. Bye-bye. Like, subscribe, and share.